Single Action Army, and the trigger mechanism and the pins, the whole 9 yards, replicated it in CAD. And then I did a spectrum analysis on it, on what it takes to break it.
Hello, everybody. We are back. Welcome to the, I always say that. Welcome to the Reload Show. It's not just the 11 Bang Bang Reload Show because it's streaming across 3 different channels. And we appreciate you watching on any of those channels. And if you have enough screens, you can watch it on all of them for all we care. Over here, of course, I'm Garrett from 11 Bang Bang. Over here to my right, co-host Duke Frazier from Duke Frazier Productions. Over here, even further to the right, is Snapper, Snapper's Antique Firearms Unlimited.
Hey guys.
To my right. And he didn't have his mask tonight, guys, so we don't get to see his face, period. And Ethan's down there downstairs. I don't know where he's at. He disappeared in the middle of the intro. And over here, we have our special guest, Plowboy from Plowboys Ghost Channel. Yay!
Yeah.
Special.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Plowboy's done this with us several times before, but it's been a while, so we thought we'd get him on here because he's been cranking out some videos pretty hot and heavy, dealing with obsolete antique calibers that won't penetrate deer and are no good for hunting anymore. And he's done quite a few videos on such things. And just going to kick it off with Plowboy. What is the ultimate rifle cartridge, and why do you think so?
The ultimate, in my mind, of course, is 4570, and it's a little late in the game for me to change my mind since I've got some comments on that claim in the recent past. But no, 70 is my favorite. I'm not saying it's the best for a flat 2,000-yard shooter, but I'm not taking those kind of shots.
Yeah, and I first saw you because we were just talking about that back in 2019 when Duke was doing this by himself with the Not So Lively live chat. He had a bunch of you guys on, and one of these days we're going to have to get some of those other guys together again. But why don't you, Duke, how did you first get in contact with Plowboy?
I made a video, and it wasn't a well done video, but anyway, I made a video and got a chain fire in it, and Plowboy made a response video to it, and yeah, we've been kind of back and forth commenting.
Hang on a second. We just got took down by YouTube.
Oh, crap. Because I waved a knife.
No, hang on just a second. Something happened.
I've got
just a second.
Channel still.
What? Yeah, we're all here on StreamYard, but YouTube has removed us.
Uh-oh.
Let me look on my phone. Just a minute. I know we didn't do anything wrong this time.
Yeah, I had that knife in my hand. I bet that screwed it up.
Great.
No, you're still going on Duke's channel and Snapper's channel. It's just your channel that's down.
No shit.
Oh, are we all?
I can't tell if I'm on mine or not.
So you guys are still watching, I guess, over on Duke's channel. Let me, you guys go ahead. I'm going to back out of here and check some stuff. Duke, you and Snapper want to run for a while, you can.
All right.
Okay.
Well, crap.
Right?
Things go bad right off the bat. Hey, it's just a challenge till it kills us. And then it's a problem.
Yeah.
Then it's a problem.
Yeah, you know what they say, when it rains, it pours. Oh, well. Well, at least we didn't get taken down all the way across the thing, so I can't really see the chat and see what's going on. So
I hit the here we go. Actually,
wait, I can see the chat. Hang on a second here. And this will just probably be what's on okay, here we go. All right.
Sorry about all this, guys.
We'll go back to the beginning here. All right, we got interior. Video dropped over on 11 Bang Bang. Black Powder Fire Enthusiast. Good evening, everyone. Louisiana Gray. Telling us that it dropped. Mill Creek Range. Then Texan 1836 says got dropped and back on. AR American says taken down. Lone Dragoon. Some. Yeah, everybody's saying it's getting
Put back up and then
taken
down.
down. Okay. Susanna Grace is on mine. Stephen M. Man's on mine. And Texan 1836 says it's back. Black Powder Fire Enthusiast said he got kicked off there. Back on Snappers. Just on 11 Bang Bang channel.
Well, I guess we'll just push on then.
Yeah.
So Plowboy, tell everybody about your newest single actions.
The newest two single actions would be probably the Bisley Vaquero, which is an old model. Of course, we know it's still a new model frame, but it's a large frame Vaquero instead of the new Vaquero. 45 5.5-inch Bisley and the 5.5-inch new model Blackhawk full-size frame again. Decided that I'm going to swap all my bear guns because once again, I've got a lot of problems with Alabama grizzlies here.
Yep.
Got that 4570 just won't take care of.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm
So,
570. That's my problem.
Those Alabama Grizzlies are big there, Ethan.
I joked about big game in our area until I was farming the other night and about ran over a bull elk. That was a little shocking.
Well, our grizzlies here, they are camouflaged so that they look almost just like a roll of hay.
Yeah.
All over the place. And it's sometimes late at night, after one or two drinks too many, they do charge you.
Mm. I have heard this.
Well, my little old Merrill ain't gonna do enough then. I better leave it at home.
I'm still walking outside the door late at night in those situations with a 4 3/4-inch Peacemaker clone with a black powder load in it. If I don't get it, then so be it.
Yeah. At least you put up a good fight.
Yeah. Let's see here.
What's the hottest load you've put through them yet, and what is the hottest load you plan on putting through them?
So far, it's at 23.5 grains of H110 of that, what's supposed to be a 300 grain Lee RF gas check bullet course. I'm using it in the lower crimp groove to give me a longer overall length and case capacity. And I'm seeing a hard max of 24 grains according to John Linebaugh, but I'm pretty sure not using a double loop groove bullet for his, so I may have a little more case capacity, therefore lower pressure than he does or did in that article. But, for years and years, going back to 2001, 2002, I got my first single action cartridge gun, and that was a full size Ruger Vaquero. And back then I owned several full frame Ruger Vaqueros before they swapped over to the new Vaqueros. And up until very, very recently with these two guns that I have, with this Vaquero that I have in here, I had never shot a Ruger only, plus P load out of a Ruger Vaquero.
Really?
I got it out of a full size Blackhawk, but not out of a Vaquero.
I want to get a Vaquero just for those reasons. Just to have something I could put some big bullets through.
And I got lucky with that one because with 22.5, 23.5 grains, and with that bullet, my windage at 10, 15 yards is dead on left to right, and my elevation my point of impact is maybe 3 inches high, 2.5 inches high. I can work with that.
So, I had a question for you because I have personally never shot a single action with a Bisley grip. I love the plow handle grip. To me, it's one of the best grips ever made. What are your thoughts on that Bisley? Do you prefer it, or do you like the original plow handle?
To a normal single action like a Colt size,
Or even with those really heavy loads too, like That's kind of interesting.
Oats, I prefer the plow grip. I prefer the 1851 grip, you know, the smaller grip like that.
Yeah.
But now there's something about now that I have a Bisley Ruger right beside a plow Bisley with the older, I think they're maple grips, if I'm not mistaken. I think I called them walnut, but I think they're maple. That Bisley feels better to me. I'm not sure that I'm really into the relationship between the trigger, but I'll be honest with you, every time I pick those two guns up, I feel better with the Vaquero Bisley in my hand than I do with the Blackhawk in my hand for some reason, and that's not something I expected.
Yeah. I mean, that is actually neat. How does the recoil through both handles affect? Do you feel it more recoil, or is it about the same?
I don't think that I feel any more recoil. I do think that the plow handle kind of allows the muzzle to rise a little bit. And
Right.
if it is enough that the trigger guard goes over your knuckle a little bit, kind of rides over it some, then that's a good thing. It doesn't bother me in that gun like it did, which of course is completely different grip frame and trigger guard design in the Super Blackhawk with the square back Dragoon style. I hated that with a purple passion.
Those squarebacks can bite you, man. They get you on your finger pretty hard.
Busted my knuckle and my finger every time I shot it. I couldn't stand that. I don't know what Bill Ruger was smoking when he designed that grip frame.
But it's pretty though. It's so pretty. It's so cool looking. But yeah, it hurts.
Good enough that you hate it and then you don't ever even want to see it again.
Yeah, my Dragoon will bite you pretty hard when it's got heavy loads. That squareback is not. It looks cool, but yeah, it's not the greatest.
Bisley don't seem to rock up in the hand as much with recoil, and still does some. And I'm getting more of my hand on the grip of that Bisley. But you have to remember, I also had the same shape of grip frame, same size of grip frame in that Ruger Super Blackhawk Bisley 480 I had that I was loading up to 475 line ball pressures and using that load data in a 400 grain. 45 Colt plus P, 44 Magnum don't kick after those 475 line ball. Enough of them, and you've had enough of them.
Yeah. I'm wondering if Garrett's ever going to get back on here. He disappeared.
He completely disappeared. He took it as a chance to take the night off.
Well, I missed it. I don't know what happened.
Getting paid back for a few of my no-shows.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, speak of the devil.
That was interesting. So apparently, after 3 years of doing this, they have taken offense to the loading of the Northwest trade gun in the intro. The Flint.
Oh, jeez.
So I've appealed it because it's not actually part of the live stream at all. It is a pre-recorded video. We haven't got a channel strike. They didn't strike it. They didn't even actually say that it was a community guideline strike. They took the video off of our channel because it may have broken community guidelines, but I appealed it. So
somebody reported us.
No, it's literally only the 1 second there in the intro where we're loading the Northwest trade gun. But
yes,
we're still live on these channels, and as of this moment, we don't have a strike over it. So, yay!
Yeah,
that's a start anyway, right?
Yeah.
Oh, y'all.
They're just gonna nickel and dime us to death until they get us all out of here.
I made a comment on one of your videos one time about Abraham Lincoln, and we got a strike mysteriously right afterwards. And
Well, but yeah, that doesn't really surprise me, but I promise you, I would have gave you a thumbs up. I wouldn't. Right? You know what I mean? Unless I disagreed with it.
No, you didn't disagree with it.
You don't want to offend the patron saint of the North.
We had somebody upset with us in the comment section, and we got reported.
Oh.
It's happened a couple times.
So, Plowboy, I got to ask, how do you feel about being down there on the bottom with a galvanized Yankee?
Ooh. Ooh.
Love
We don't
everybody.
talk about that. Hey, the uniform is in the mail from CNC Sutlery for my Confederate uniform.
He had redeeming qualities then.
And when we do the Merrill video, we're going to it'll be a B&O Railroad captured Merrill.
No, I was thinking though, for when you get that Yankee uniform on there, you got to put a big 5 on the front of it for the 5th U.S. Volunteers. That was the galvanized Yankees out here in Wyoming.
Oh boy. No.
Did we lose Garrett again?
I think we did.
No, I'm here. I'm just answering emails. Just carry on.
Oh, okay.
No, that's the only thing I got really period correct for the things like the Merrill and the trapdoor. So for now, but I got a Brunswick now, and I think I'm gonna either do a 13th Mississippi uniform, 42nd Mississippi, or 26th Louisiana, because those are all the guys who are armed with Brunswick rifles.
Well, Biggs, we're already throwing a thing on YouTube's ranch thing. Why don't you just show it to us?
Oh, the Brunswick?
I don't want to write emails for the other 2 channels.
Yeah, I was surprised at the amount of people who were like, "Oh, wow, you embracing your Kansas State heritage," and I was like, "Ooh, that's the part of the Kansas State heritage I'm not too proud of."
Burn.
You're a Jayhawker.
No.
You know,
Pretty
John
hit.
Brown's dead.
Yeah.
Wish I was in the land of cod.
Hey,
Sorry.
you're taking that again.
One of my favorite scenes.
Yep.
That's a good thing for you, Mr. Good thing for you, Mr. Bohannon. You weren't in Kansas that night. No, I'd say it's a good thing for you. I wasn't in Kansas.
That's such a good movie. Series, not a movie.
Oh, that's why.
I haven't seen it in so long. I need to watch it again.
What'd you say, Plowboy? You were saying something.
I liked it so much I had to buy the DVDs. I still do that.
There's nothing wrong with
How
that.
are you enjoying your Bohannon holster?
I got to be honest with you. I don't know what happened to it.
Uh-oh.
I think, to be straight up with you, I believe that way back when that someone had to have that holster.
He trades his holsters like he trades his guns.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that's what happened to it. I believe it was a gun trading or something, and somebody had to have it, wanted it bad, and I said, all right, fine, because that got me where I was going.
Well, that was the #1 Bohannon holster that I made.
And #1 serial number. It'll show up someday.
Yeah.
See it over in Rock Island in 50 years.
I made 3 of them, and that was the first one. And yeah, the skirts were too wide. But if you ever get in a hankering for another one, I still got the pattern.
You know, I can see that happening in the future if we're still here in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure within the next year it's going to get much worse before it gets better.
So while we're already making people mad tonight, Sleepy Leap has a comment here. Plowboy versus, how do you pronounce that, Ethan? I never can pronounce it. Ethan knows it well.
What does it start with?
What's his name?
Atune Shea? Oh, that guy. Don't get me started on that guy.
Shea Films.
Don't get me started on that guy. Me and Garrett had a long, lengthy discussion about him the other day.
I don't even know. I'm supposed to know.
Well, let's put it this way. He has a video out about why Gods and Generals is nothing but pro-Confederacy propaganda and how it's how terrible Gods and Generals is. And I'm like, my favorite movie. And I was trying to see what he was saying was wrong with it. He said, well, look at this. And it was showing, I think it was at Chancellorsville, that scene where they're coming up over the hill and they're playing that music and getting you ramped up for that charge. He said, look, the music is playing. Zoom in on the Confederate flag. This is all pro-Confederate propaganda. And I'd seen one guy who had debunked him. He was an actual historian, gets on there, goes, funny, because there's another movie that was made by the same people called Gettysburg. Little Round Top, Chamberlain, dramatic music, charging, zooming in on him. Really? So what you're saying is, yeah.
It just seems like most people were mad that there's victory sounding music when it zooms into the Confederacy.
Well, the whole point that this guy made is that he said, I'm trying to think right now. My brain's a little bit fuzzy after today. It was a little warm day today, but his thing is that he's talking about the lost cause of the pro-Confederate sympathizers or whatever, and he goes on and on and on about it. And basically, if it's not painting the Confederate as a monster and as a racist, he goes off about how it's propaganda. And there's a lot of big gun tubers on YouTube right now who back this guy, and I'm like, y'all are insane.
I was trying to think. I knew where you were going with that because I know the type, and typically that's what you're going to find most. Anybody who knows real history and has real history, you can't turn on anything just about anywhere without finding something that's going to be offensive because that's all that's out there. And
he got real quiet. He got real quiet when asked about the tariffs of 1857 and 1858.
And there's a lot of, I'm not supposed to the politics, but I'm talking about this because it's history.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who think that because they've watched a few things, in their lifetimes in this day and age, that they've listened to enough people that they know everything there is to know, and there's nothing more to question. And if you dare present anything in the light that doesn't agree with their limited thinking, you're automatically a problem.
And that's what.
Yeah. But don't you guys know that if it offends me, it's not historically correct?
Well, the guy there was only one guy that even questioned him, and he was an actual historian, and he's going along, and this Ayatun Shea guy's talking about the whole gods and generals, how he hates it, because he's like, all it shows is Confederate victory, Confederate victory, Confederate victory. And this actual historian goes on there, and this historian was pro-Union. And he gets on there, he goes, well, he's like, I'm pro-Union, but he's like, I got to say this. It could be the fact that it's covering the battles from Battle of First Manassas to Chancellorsville. Confederate victory, Confederate victory, Confederate victory. He's like, there's a movie that's made before this, but comes afterwards called Gettysburg, and that's when the Union wins. You might want to go check that one out. But he's like, no. He's like, they just kept winning.
Maybe they didn't realize the fact that like a triumphant music means this is the side that's winning in the battle instead of they're just trying to make these guys out to be like the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
And I really feel like that's what they did in Gods and Generals. They made it show, hey, the victory sounding music is because they're winning this part of the battle.
Yeah.
Y'all notice I'm not saying a whole lot just because I'm trying not to get anybody's channel shut down here.
Don't worry. There's only two of them.
We're already headed that way.
So we don't care.
This is all I have to say on the matter. Jackson.
Oh, Jay Wheeler says, I watch Stonewall speeches at least once a month.
Yep. And I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I will sit there and I will play that scene from Gods and Generals, the Battle of First Manassas, where Jackson's up there hollering, we're going to charge them, we're going to run them back to Washington. I sit there, I get a little bit hyped up. Yeah, need to go home and get that Brunswick running.
Well, when y'all get that muzzleloader Springfield, you got to get it bayoneted on it, and then you got to overlap that in when you do the video on it. Give them the bayonet.
I'm actually interested in. I found out that the Mississippi boys that carried the Brunswicks were at Shiloh, and I did some reading on that the other day, and they were talking about, called it the Hornet's Nest because you could hear the sounds of the bullets whizzing through the air, sounding like a nest of angry hornets. And a thought entered my mind. That Brunswick fired a belted round ball, which looks like a little Saturn. It's a round projectile, but it's got a lead belt around it that fits into the rifling. When that thing's fired, that thing whips through the air. So I'm almost kind of wondering if, and they said that they were talking about, it was a Tennessee guy was talking about when Mississippi went in there, which they would have had the Brunswicks. He was talking about He said we went in there, we charged into that place, and he said they fed us mini balls for breakfast. He said we fell back. He said, and here comes Mississippi hollering, "Hoo-wee, get out the way, Tennessee, Mississippi wants in." He said about an hour later, they're hollering, "Hoo-wee, get out of the way, Tennessee, Mississippi wants out."
Yeah, I've been to military park so many times. It's been a long time, but I used to go there sometimes once every month.
Yeah.
About 2 hours, about maybe 2 hours from here at most.
I'd love that. That'd be so nice to be able to go to an actual.
Familiar with the Hornet's Nest? We used to get off the beaten path and walk a lot of those places, and I'd go through some of the places that were in, other books that I had, mainly stuff to do with forest and Tennessee cavalry and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I'd follow, try to go along in the footsteps, in the general area where they were based on, what I could find.
Mm-hmm.
To the night of April 6th, when the Federals are landing there at Pittsburgh Landing, getting off Tennessee River, and Forrest and a few other people. Of course, Forrest was he wasn't much more than maybe a captain. I don't even know if he was much more than that at the time. I'm getting a little rusty on this, but they went up to these Indian mounds that are right on the side of the river, and those mounds are still there, and they've got steps up them. You can walk right up to the same point where watching the Federals disembark that night. And he went and tried as hard as he could to find someone in command, to tell them if they don't pick up the fight now, we're going to be whipped in the morning. And that's exactly what happened. And nobody listened to him because he didn't have any ranking.
I wonder if that river that they were disembarking off of, and you said that was in Tennessee, right?
Tennessee.
So, I wonder if that was the same river where Jack Henson set up on the cave and would pick them off as they're going down the riverboat.
Oh, that was, I think that was the Ohio. It might not have been. Is
Okay.
that Cumberland? I'm not really sure. I should have said that, but the Tennessee River flows all across North Alabama, comes in over toward, closer toward Chattanooga.
Okay.
State, and goes out over here in the northwest corner. I cross the river frequently.
Okay.
You're muted, Duke. It must have been a good joke.
I was gonna say, is that why the band Alabama's got a song named Tennessee River?
I mean, it is. Fort Payne ain't on the river, but it's not too awful far.
Yeah.
That's where most of them from, Fort Payne.
Well, I'm just going to jump in here, guys, and say we're not doing bad. We've been running over 60 on the two channels, and I apologize to everyone in the chat. Since we got messed up there at the first, I didn't get a chance to read through everybody, and now I'm so far behind I'll never get a chance to. But
well, I got through some of them, but it was mostly telling you it got took down.
Yeah, okay. If you guys have real questions out there or something, throw them up there that might catch my eye, and we'll read them. Okay, yeah, that's pretty good because running 60 on a night when we're going up against a debate's pretty decent.
Yeah,
I never thought about that. I thought Walker said that.
I heard something like that was going on tonight, but I didn't know for sure.
What's going on?
Just to go to show we're more entertaining.
Yeah. There was something up here I wanted to read. He was talking about that Bohannon holster by Landon C. Hi, Doc. If you guys haven't checked him out, check him out. He's got one video out. I get spoiled because every time I got a question dealing with military records, I ask him and he usually has the answer. So, but by Landon C said, Snapper, or I think he's talking Duke. Not only will that holster show up on Rock Island opening bid, will be $2,800.
If it goes for that much, I want a percentage.
Just see one of these days, Forgotten Weapons video. Hi, I'm Ian McCollum, and today we have serial number 1 of Duke Fraser's holsters. Go ahead.
But don't show up on in range.
Oh,
Anyway, moving on.
they'll end up showing up as. No, go ahead.
Rod's Vintage Guns and Gabs said, which military troops carried the Mississippi rifles? I'm not a historian, beg my pardon. I don't know, but maybe somebody else does. Anybody know?
Duke.
Mississippi rifles?
Hang on a second. I'm trying to get my box. What's the question?
Which units carried the Mississippi rifles? Now, that's a weird question because the Mississippi rifle I'm thinking of predates the Civil War by about 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah, because that was Mexican American War that they really start coming into play.
Yeah,
but I
I'm
wouldn't
sure
be
they were out
surprised if there were some Southern units that had them.
and some northern units too. Probably a lot of
Yeah.
people don't realize that the first of the war, Grant was utilizing a lot of smoothbores, right? Or not Grant, but the Union Army was utilizing a lot of smoothbores themselves right off the bat.
What's funny is that what was it, Shiloh? They had a brown vest there that was recovered.
Yeah, well, there's also at Gettysburg, if I remember right, there was some old brown vests. But the story I'd read was I can't remember which unit it was. It was a Confederate unit was armed strictly with 1816 Springfields, and
not to change it.
Do what?
I was going to say not to change the subject, but I was out at Homestead National Park in Nebraska, which focuses on homestead area over a lot of area. But the guy that homesteaded there where the park is at, they had a picture of him, and this is like late 1800s, and he's carrying a brown vest musket.
Yep.
So they were around for a long time.
I was reading in that Flintlock book about that Confederate Union unit using the 1816 Springfields, and they talk about one of the soldiers got so frustrated with it, he went and took it, used it, broke it against a tree, and went and found himself a Springfield, broke it against a tree so he couldn't be reissued back to him.
Turn it in. Somebody just polish it a little bit and hand it back to them in 30 minutes. Here's a new one, son.
Have fun.
Diane Houston wanted to know, Ethan, how's the new baby doing? Does Jeremiah love his little brother?
He does, actually. That little baby is loved by his brother and sister.
That's awesome.
I don't think you ever announced what his name was.
I think it did. Daniel Morgan of Morgan's Rifles.
What was the names we come up with, Garrett, on that chat?
Oh,
I can't remember, but there was a bunch of them.
Oh, you guys came up with some good ones. I don't remember what they were there, but they were
somebody
funny.
wanted to name him Mosby. I remember that much.
Yeah, John Singleton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And somebody wanted to name him Nathan Bedford, but somebody here on the chat already stole that.
name.
His first name is Nathan. His middle name is Forrest.
Yeah, there you go.
You could have gone Nathan Bedford.
Yeah.
Let's see. There was a question here from Sleepy Leap. He said, if you gentlemen have interest, I asked earlier about technique. I might have to scroll back up for shooting single actions. It might be cool to hear all of you comment. Let me scroll back up there.
One bullet at a time.
Yes. Let me scroll up here.
I mean, if you don't load your cap and ball right, you could get like 3 off at a time.
I've had 2.
And apparently there's a way you could turn one into almost a fully auto pistol.
According to Blackie. Okay,
yeah.
So here's the question. Sleepy Leap said, I'm curious about the technique for holding a single action. It seems to help my hand not cramp when I let my trigger finger bear some of the weight of the gun. And then he scrolls down here. So, i.e., it's firmly against the upper right corner of the trigger guard, and I hinge the end of my finger to touch off the trigger.
Yeah.
Modern teaching to not touch the trigger at all, of course. Isolated finger.
It doesn't really work too well on a single
right.
action.
Weight on a single action.
We got the right guy on the chat for this one, Sleepy Leap. So that's his question. Go ahead, Plowboy.
What exactly am I supposed to be addressing? Whether or not you touch the trigger or have your finger in the trigger guard?
I think so. I think his question is he's having trouble running it with his finger outside of the trigger guard.
I've never tried running one without my finger in the trigger guard. 28 years of having single actions. I don't think I've ever tried that.
It's one of the few guns you really have to have your finger in the trigger guard.
I see people do that on YouTube, and I don't know. I mean, I understand why they think that, why they feel that way, but I figured out something different a long time ago, and I went with it. If it's cocked and I've got my finger in the trigger guard, I'm pointed towards something I aim to shoot. If it's not cocked, I'm not worried about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the question he clarified, is it correct to shoot the pistol with your trigger finger in contact with the frame? Oh, like way up high? I don't know if it feels good to you. If it shoots good for you.
Let me go get my Schofield right quick and try it off camera. and I'll tell you.
Let's not do that, Ethan.
I said try it off camera, and I'll tell you.
Well, I can tell you that on the originals, there is a spot on the trigger guard in front of the trigger upwards. If you look upwards, you'll see that it's worn from where the finger is actually supporting the front part of the gun through the trigger guard. So I think that might answer his question.
Well, I just tried it on a Colt single action Army clone, and I can tell you, my fingers and hands are wrapped all around it. I'm touching it in 20 different places.
20 different places, yeah.
You know, I'm full contact. I'm not looking for just the right amount of trigger on the perfect pad of my finger, nothing like that. I'm locked in there getting everything that I think I need. Well, I can't even run a phone, can I? I don't need to be handling a gun.
I will say this, and Duke pointed this out a long time ago, but I'll agree with him. That's one of the reasons the Patterson is such a bear to shoot.
Yeah.
There's no trigger guard to get any leverage on, no place to lock your finger there against that frame.
You know, with some experimentation, I think the way that was designed was that you had your hand on the grip like this. You would cock it, and then being that trigger folds, you just push your trigger finger forward. It flips the trigger out of the way, and then it flips back down, and then you pull it.
Yeah. And the grip,
That's an interesting.
fits you. But
that's an interesting thought.
I don't know. I can't cock a single action without having my finger in a trigger guard. It's basically
I can't
impossible.
It's awkward. It's awkward.
With the Patterson, I have to snap it if I don't do that. I have to put my thumb on the hammer and snap it in my hand to get it to cock.
Especially with the heavy springs. I mean, holy cow, the original extremely heavy springs.
Yeah, now my Uberti, it's not bad because that Uberti's got a lighter spring in it, but that Pietta's got a heavier spring and piece of junk anyway. But yeah, it wasn't as easy with that Pietta.
Yeah, if you want to get at any idea what a real single action hammer spring's kind of like, just put 2 Uberti springs in your Uberti, and it's close. It's not quite as heavy, but it's close.
I need to do that with my pocket models.
Just do whatever feels. Just do whatever shoots best for you. Don't put a lot of stock into modern training of firearms if you're going to be shooting a single action Army anyway. It's not designed to shoot modern. It's technically even designed to only shoot one hand. And I guarantee you, I got a lot of the guys doing the modern training, and you hand them a single action Army, it's going to take them a while to get a hang of it because it's a whole different beast. It's not designed around modern principle, modern philosophy, shall we say.
I saw someone the other day with a single action Army or with a single action revolver in their hand. I can't remember what it was. And they were doing a review and a test. And while they were doing it, they had on a magazine pouch deal in front of them. It was filled with rifle magazines and pistol magazines. And that's really how some people are.
Yep. Ready to call of duty.
I don't really get that.
It's your trophy weapon for when you score really high.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've seen people actually try to pick up the single action Army and go 2 thumbs forward on the side of the frame. And then when I shoot with 2 hands, they're all like, you're teacupping it or something. I'm like, fine, I'll shoot with 1 hand. You're supposed to shoot with 2 hands.
Shoots at 350 yards.
Once. Probably never again.
You know what? One-handed shooting with a 1911, we've proven that you can hit something at 300 yards with a one-hand shot. Me and Garrett both have proved that.
I was examining that this morning, actually.
Garrett hit a target, and I hit a GoPro.
I was about to say, Duke hit a way smaller target than I did.
Duke's an expert.
I dropped that thing in like artillery and knocked it clear out of a gopher hole.
A 45 caliber bullet hole right there, right through the middle of it. 300 plus yards.
I still think that's
it was with 18-inch barrel 45 Colt. I couldn't even get close to that 1911. I about nailed a coyote with that 1911 at 100 yards.
Yep.
I put that bullet right at his feet.
People don't give enough credit to the mass of that bullet carrying it out and making it stabilize at long range, either on the 45 ACP or the 45 Colt.
Well, and you think about it, that 45 Colt, auto Colt ACP, It's a 230 grain bullet doing what, 900 feet per second?
800.
Mhm.
Pretty darn close to a 45 Colt.
Oh, that was
pretty
why it
close
was
to the
designed. It
later
was
Yeah.
designed to
military
be like the old military, the old 45 Colt, the shorter round. The later one, yeah, it was designed to have the exact same ballistics as that's the military ordnance designed for the
Basically,
45.
it's copying the
60.
Schofield bullet because that's what they were using around.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
That's what they were using.
But one of these days, we've got to find the original style bullet mold, and we've got to put that to the test of, because I think that 45 Colt, just with the weight of the bullet, it's going to have more energy. It's going to be a more powerful round than the Walker load.
Hey, Duke, those rounds I shot in them long ranges, those were original bullets. Those were cast, not original, but they were original style, cast up by Benji from Mill Creek Range, and Plowboy got some of them too.
So
and
they got
those
them.
were really thick, heavy grease lubes.
Yeah, I was going to say they've got the two really deep grease grooves on them.
Mm-hmm.
And see, that's a problem I ran into because I was using a 45 ACP bullet mold when I was loading my black powder rounds, and you couldn't get enough grease in there. My barrel let it out. Of course, when I was shooting 45 Schofield with that load, even though it was leading out, I was still shooting groups like that at 20 paces.
Yeah.
250,
Hey, did those? Go ahead.
255 grain lead that I've been using for a long time, even with black powder. You'll see it, the lube grooves on it. It's got two of them, and I need a magnifying glass to see them with my eyes right now.
It's probably the exact same bullets I have from Lee. They're very small.
But for some reason, I'm not getting a lot of problems with it.
I just had a lot of leading because, like, I took, when I cleaned my barrel after I ran 150 rounds that day, I took and cleaned my barrel, and then I soaked the black powder fouling off of the lead pieces that I got out of the barrel, and I had about 10 grains of lead in the barrel.
You know, that my recent video that I did on my new single action that I got, the old one, if you look at one of the slow-mo videos, you can see the bullet tumbling because that was one of the last shots I did through the gun, and I had over 100 rounds through it, and it was leaded so bad the bullet was tumbling, coming out of the barrel.
But it didn't let it as bad as the 30-30. One day I decided I bought a bunch of hard cast lead bullets for the 30-30, and I thought I'd put a real light load of Varget in there, going way too fast. I leaded that barrel bad.
You know, I've
The
heard
original.
that the harder you cast, the worse your leading can be. I don't know if it's true or not, but
then I went to H41, I think it's 4198, and I went with a light load on that. Never had a problem with it.
I noticed that these first gens, though, the rifling is really skinny. Like, it's really, really shallow, and it's really skinny.
And they have gain twist still, right?
No, not on the single action.
Not on single, okay.
Yeah.
once they predominantly get away from the round ball, it's kind of when they leave that for Colt.
Right.
And the rifling looks strange.
Right. Because does the 72 open top still have gain twist?
I don't know. Original.
I've never messed with an original. I've seen them in person, but never messed with them.
Oh, Garrett, I thought you had an original Navy in your collection.
Yeah, but not a 72 open top.
I have a conversion.
It's a conversion. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, a conversion would still have the
right
because it's converted. You not have your 72 anymore, Plowboy? That one with the white grips?
That's one of the ones that got gone that I want another one.
Yeah.
I know where one's at down here at my local dealers, but it's in 44 special. If it was in 45 Colt, I'd already brought it home.
Yeah. And I actually got that question the other day from some people. They were like, would it be more historically accurate to shoot this in 44 special than 45 Colt? And I was like, well, 44 special is actually 429. 45 Colt's 454. They're about the same distance away from the original 44 Henry in reality. So I don't see the advantage of going 44 special unless you're already loading for it.
I had thought on getting some 44 Colt brass and loading it that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just black powder, but I want to keep my mind. I don't want to have to keep up with another round. You know, that I don't want to drop in the wrong gun.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be cool if somebody chambered one of the replicas in 44 Henry. Kind of cool.
I get that all the time. Every time I talk about those plowboy loads, I call them plowboy loads. Obviously, they're his loads. But every time I talk about it, somebody will say, "Well, yeah, but you can't shoot those in an open top conversion or an open top." And I'm always like, "Man, I've shot so many, couple thousand of them through my open top with no issue." Maybe somebody.
I think you forgot to tell your open top it can't do that. That's the problem. You forgot to tell it.
You can't do that with smokeless in the open top.
Okay, that's different. Yeah, I will agree with you there. Don't load your hottest buffalo bore smokeless round through an open top, but it'll handle 40 grains.
But I mean, even a smokeless load that was the equivalent of Plowboys, that's a little too potent because the black powder don't have the pressure that smokeless has.
I ran the 8.2 grains of universal under that same 255 grain lead. That load out of I'm gonna guess it's probably out of a 7.5 inch revolver. It may be running maybe 850, 900 foot per second, something like that. I ran a bunch of those where I ran several of them through that open top, and I wouldn't worry about that. But now the black powder, it's not so much the total pressure, it's the pressure curve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How it burns and how the pressure comes up, and, and the difference in the spikes. And there's going to be people listen to this, thank God, I wish he'd just be quiet and let somebody that knows talk. But that's essentially what it is. There's a difference in the pressure curve between black powder and most smokeless, or all smokeless.
Right.
Yeah, you're using in a the way I understand it, and I may be all wrong, but when you're shooting smokeless, you're using the chamber of the cylinder as that's holding your pressure. When you're blowing up black powder, you're using that chamber and half that barrel, maybe not more, to contain that pressure.
Yeah.
And what's funny is you can safely get more foot-pounds downrange with black powder in those guns than you can with smokeless. And that's the line a lot of people don't understand. Just because the black powder burns differently, like you were saying, does not mean you get less performance downrange. Because it'll do it.
Yeah, black powder has a bell curve, and the smokeless has its pike. It just spikes.
Yeah. Because a 4570 with a black powder load outperforms a Black Hills Cowboy, and they're setting at about the same pressure.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to muzzle loading rifles, I think about it that way when comparing what you can get away with black powder and what you can, compared to smokeless. There were times, when in a 58 caliber, a 5.77 caliber, that I was shooting. I could shoot 50 grains of 3F. Or I could shoot 100 grains of 3F, and it was going to work either way, and it wasn't going to blow the barrel up. You can't double, not that I can think of. I can't think of any smokeless powder that you can half or double the charge of, and it be safe both ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that should tell you right there that there's definitely a difference in the pressure curves and the safety level. And back when I had my first 2-band infield back, I guess 98, 99, I actually started out loading a very heavy bullet that I bought. I think I bought it at Walmart of all places. Of course, it wasn't a mini ball or nothing like that. And I was actually running 110 grains of powder in that. And it never had any problem.
Yep.
That Sea Service pistol, every now and then I'll load up around 100 grains in it. It's pretty fun at that point.
Sometimes I take that matchlock and put 240 grains in it.
We shoot 240 grains out of the matchlock, but that is non-compressed serpentine powder, so it's a little bit different.
But yeah, you really see the difference between the two, because I mean, if you're 2 or 3 grains off loading a black powder round, oh well. You're 2 or 3 grains off in a handgun with smokeless, and your hand may be gone.
You go from oh well to oh no.
Well, didn't you guys know? I mean, 5.77 mini ball. Didn't you guys know that's? Let me use Ethan's favorite word. That's not ethical for deer anymore.
I've heard so much.
It's not ethical anymore. It was perfectly fine 2 years ago, but now it's not ethical anymore.
It was perfectly fine for 2-legged game for a long time, but now all of a sudden it's not appropriate.
Everybody complains about, ethical on this and that. They don't realize the 4440 probably killed more deer next to the 30-30.
And a 22.
Well, to be quite honest, You know what I think has killed more deer than anything, and I may be wrong on this? Probably a musket ball or buckshot.
Yeah, that's true too.
Because you got to think about it. How long people been hunting with a 30-30? 100 years. And then they brought in all the licensing and everything else, the tags, all that. How many years were people hunting with round balls with
About 300 before that.
300 years of unrestricted hunting.
And everybody
For
hunts
crying
to get
out
the same
loud,
point,
Yellowstone
too.
Kelly hunted grizzly bear in Buffalo with a 44 Henry.
Or 243. I heard that the other day. 243 was more powerful than 4570.
Plowboy just shaking his head because he's seen all these videos.
Well, it all depends
I got
on
a response back from that.
What did you say?
depends on what you're trying to do. If it's you versus a watermelon, blow her up. It don't matter. But if you need to get something stopped, if it needs a lot of deep penetration and tearing up hell and half of Georgia getting there, I'd use something heavier than 243.
Yeah,
I
probably.
would too. I would too. That's where I start drawing the line, because the same people that are saying that the 4570 is worth than 243 are saying the 243 is ethical for deer and the 4570 is. And I'm like, that is a cartridge I've seen deer walk away from.
Oh yeah.
So you shoot a deer in the lung with a 243, it's going to destroy the lung. You shoot a deer in the lung with a 4570, it's going to suck the lung back out the other side.
Boy, you could run for president, Duke.
Just blow the lungs completely out of it.
You'll blow your lung out, kid.
Oh man.
Yeah. I had a comment the other day on our 4570 test, and the guy was saying that's unfair to 30-06. He said it's apples to oranges. If you sped that 4570 up to 30-06 speed, it would do the same thing. I said that was the whole point of the test. Did you miss that first part?
I would like to find the video. I know I've made reference to y'all about it before. I watched a video a long time ago. It's actually an episode of Mythbusters where they were set up in a swimming pool to shoot down through the column of air through like a 2 or 3 foot column of water. They had ballistic gelatin set up in the pool. Mm-hmm. This is all at a certain angle. They had it rigged up. And then something as a backstop, maybe plywood or something. And every single thing that they shot through that water column, all the way up to 50 BMG, everything disintegrated before it even got into the ballistic gelatin. Mm-hmm. The only thing that went all the way into it was an old rifle musket. Yeah. When it went through the column of water, it went through the ballistics gel and went to the wood. I don't know if it went through the wood, but it got to it.
There you go. And that's
I could have swore that they did it with pistol as well. Like the pistol made it, like a 45 ACP or something like that. Because it's traveling slower, the hydrodynamic shock doesn't hit the bullet the way it does when it's stupid fast.
Well, and you, when I texted Plowboy and I told him, what do you think happened? He already knew it was going to happen. Obviously, he has more ballistic. Has a more ballistic brain than I do, because when we first set that test up, I was like, when it comes to the full metal jacket bullet, I don't know which one's going to do better. Turns out that full metal, neither of those got through more than about 8 inches of water. Wouldn't punch through the back of I would say it's probably more like 10 inches. They're about 5 inches thick. Would not punch through the back of it. And so I was like, honestly, this tells me why, as far as military goes, the 30-06 is the superior cartridge for humans, because it's going to get in there in that first 10 inches. But it's not superior for big game. I don't care what you say. And when it comes to big game, that you need more than 2 feet of penetration.
I think I responded to you in that. Didn't I tell you that if you had used a big flat nose bullet, of a decent weight, 430 grain, 500 grain. I think Garrett Cartridges puts out some 540 grain hammerheads. I bet you that a flat point bullet driven about the same speed, or maybe even just a little more, pretty close to the same, it might have actually penetrated a little bit better.
Well, we did shoot the flat point at 405, and it went through all 4, but we didn't have enough jugs to catch it, like you said. So it was just gone. So.
Yeah, with those pointed bullets, you'll tend, a lot of times, you'll get some yawing after they penetrate. So, and And if it starts, didn't you hold one and it was deformed a little bit on one side of the nose?
Yeah, it deformed just one side. It kind of acted like it did that.
So it could yaw any daggum direction in there too. But a flat point, of course, will do more damage, but it also tends to drive straighter. At least that's the conventional wisdom that I've read.
But you also got to take into account the difference in the weight too.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you why we use these sharp pointed ones. I ordered the 500 grain military load cartridge without looking at the picture, and somehow wound up with this sharp pointed leaf. So that's the only 500 grain one I got at the moment.
Yeah, you got those spear points, right?
Yeah, and actually, I found some pictures of them for single shot sharps rifles from 1880s and 90s.
Yeah,
I didn't
say that
see them
spear.
before that.
That spear point came out pretty late because I think that was like Creedmoor era.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was seeing, and I honestly don't know if it's designed to cut the wind at longer range. What I'd read was it was designed to penetrate better, but like we saw and like Plowboy said, they hit a point and they'll take off in any direction. So
I'd like to do a test on one of these Alabama Grizzlies. There's a bunch of them out here in this
They're everywhere.
And, go into them, shoot them with a couple of different things and then cut in there and see how far they went. But I'll have to make sure that they're not out there putting those Grizzlies on trailers and hauling them off to the barn first.
Oh, Ethan, why don't you tell them about the Wendigo that about ate you in the tractor the other night?
Oh, I told him about that already.
We live in Kansas and there's no elk, but he found one in the middle of the night the other day.
I found 11 of them. Because like I was saying earlier, I was sitting there in the cab of an 8770 John Deere tractor about 10 feet off the ground. And I look off to the left and I see antlers. Eye level. And I'm like, oh. That is, all I could see was the antlers because the lights, it was the middle of the night, all the lights were in the front and in the back. And I just saw antlers and I'm like, got a Wendigo running around out here with me. Then he ran out in front of the tractor. And I mean, if the door was open, I could have about reached out and grabbed him. That's how close he was. He was running in front of the disc and beside the tractor. And he ran out in front of me and started shaking his head around. And I took a picture of him. A big old bull elk.
There you go.
Yeah, it was
We
a big
don't
one. I
have
saw the
those.
picture of it.
Yeah,
we don't have those, so that's strange for us.
Yeah.
Well, you've got some elk, but not down that part usually.
Yeah. Usually they're up at Fort Riley.
Yeah, because I looked at hunting elk in Kansas because I saw they had it when I was looking at hunting tags for Kansas. And yeah, it's a resident only, but there's only a small area.
We
Yeah.
actually are getting it this year because they recognized it.
Yeah.
So I think they have 5 tags for our section that's going to be drawn in a lottery. Not that any
You better
of us
put in for one.
Yeah, right. AR American had a comment back up here. I thought it was kind of funny talking about leading with hard lead. He said if you don't clean them, you won't notice the leading.
This is very
Well,
true.
you notice it when your accuracy goes because, I'm shooting at 50 yards with a 30-30 and the barrels or the patterns like that. There's something wrong.
Yeah.
Lone Dragoon had one for Plowboy here. He said, hey, Plowboy, do you know any good reenactment groups in the southern part of Alabama? I live on the Gulf Coast.
I don't know anybody that's still doing it. That area down there, I wouldn't have known anybody probably anyway. I did run across a feller year before last, not this summer, but last summer. There was someone down at Fort Morgan. That might have been the year before. That was doing living history. And he and I talked a little bit. He was, of course, in uniform doing living history stuff and presentation. And I kind of got the feeling that he was, connected with a little bit of reenacting too, not just doing living history. But I don't know of anyone right off the top of my head. If I were trying to search anyone anymore, I'd have to do a lot of Googling and looking up and talking to people. I do know this got a cannon around here that they're running a mountain howitzer that might be 2 of them actually. I think that some people are still doing it, but I don't know that anybody that I was reenacting with in the late 90s and early 2000s is still doing it.
Captain Ron's 18th Century does Revolutionary War and Civil War reenactments, but that's in Georgia. So, I mean, kind of close, but
I think
far away.
think the 7th Tennessee Cavalry Company D might still be doing something, and they were headquartered somewhere between North Alabama and South Central Tennessee. I used to know a bunch of people in that outfit.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen any of them in years.
Was that trip you went down there and found out where the Kool-Aid man ran through the wall?
That was at Fort Morgan. That was the site of the first Kool-Aid man busting through a wall.
I remember that video. Doesn't seem like it's been a year ago, but I guess it has been.
That was summer before last.
Ha! Time flies.
I love your videos from Lincoln when you went to New Mexico.
I wish
I want to go there.
I wish I had so much more there. I wish I had this GoPro. It would have been a lot better video.
I thought they were.
Well, one of these days you got to come up here in this north part of the country.
Yeah,
Well, I ain't to one day. I've got a boy that's he's living just outside Lincoln, Nebraska, and working there. And I think one day we're going to go that direction. If I can get my wife, will do some of the driving, and I'll just sit over there in the passenger seat and sleep. And we've been talking about going further once we've gone that far. I haven't been through Lincoln, Nebraska since 1991, 92, early 92.
Yeah, you're just a hop, skip, and a jump from that point, from how far you started. You have to let
about
us
a
know
5-hour
because
drive.
you're going to go through all of us except for Snapper.
Well, if you ever do get the chance, Plowboy, and you make it this far, I'll take you hunting. You know, we'll do some hunting for our desert grizzlies, our deep desert grizzlies. We have a lot of problem with the Death Valley salmon, though. There's so many of them. That's why we have a problem with our Death Valley grizzlies.
We can take care of that.
D had a good comment here. He said, "I'm gonna go with arrows as the greatest taker of wild game in history." I'm not gonna argue with you there.
You got a very valid point.
As far as firearms go, I really do think that the musket ball and buckshot are probably the best. As far as firearms go.
But as far as killing the most game, I'm gonna agree with him. Probably arrows.
Oh, yeah, arrows.
Yeah.
Arrows and rocks and whatnot.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, Stephen M. Mann says, so when it comes to 6, bullet construction is everything. That is why we shot both types. We shot hollow point and we shot full metal jacket, and neither of them did good.
They both ended up in the same spot.
I should say they both did. They both did great for medium-sized game.
Oh yeah, almost too great. Because I'll be honest, I'm not big on deer hunting with a 30-06. It always seems like it always seems like it does everything it's going to do right as it's exiting, and you end up with a hole that big coming out the other end.
Yeah, but you shoot a deer with a 500 grain pure lead 4570 bullet, it's going to do the same thing because that bullet's going to get that big around.
Yeah, well,
not really. I mean, when we tested it in water, it didn't do anything different other than bend the nose a little bit.
Yeah.
You're using pure lead though, or
yeah.
Oh no,
okay.
That depends on which round. No, the first one was hard cast.
Because when I shot, I was shooting some paper patch 500 grain 4570s one day, and my uncle told me try hitting there was an old fire extinguisher at 50 yards. I missed the fire extinguisher and shot the jackrabbit that was right behind it.
Oh.
And we found the bullet on the ground at about 100 yards, and it was the size of a $50 because it had jackrabbit hair all over it.
Yeah, it was a pure soft lead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was such a pure soft lead that when I seated the bullet, I didn't know better, and I seated the bullet with my bullet seeder, and I swaged that bullet to bigger than the diameter of the bore on the first one I loaded. And that was with a hand plier.
I've casted some solder like that, but I use that solder cast for cap and ball revolvers that were tight.
Right.
And that works pretty good.
Hey, Plowboy, I had a question for you. Since you study force so much, what are your thoughts on the story where he basically ended up surrounded and he picked the Yankee up, threw him on the back of his horse as a shield? You think that actually happened? Do you think that's possible?
You know, you're talking about it. What he's talking about is the Battle of Fallen Timbers, which is really just forced them covering the retreat of the Confederate Army after the Battle of Shiloh, going back toward Corinth. And Sherman's men were advancing. They were they were pursuing the Confederates, and forced, supposedly when which he did get far ahead of his men a lot. Found himself surrounded, and someone hollered and kill that man, knock him off his horse. And he's supposed to grabbed up this little Federal and kind of held him up, like a human shield, and rode off with him. Now Forrest was shot. He had a pretty bad wound that I believe it was in somewhere near his spine. It was somewhere in his thinking. Do I think that happened? Actually, I don't consider it impossible. Depends on who.
Well, I just think the fact that he survived it showed that he's one heck of a horseman.
Well, now that's just it. I mean, the man. The fact that I've read so many different biographies of his, and I've read his own, one that had a hand in writing part of, some of the material that was offered up, and really telling the truth. A lot of retelling a lot of the true feats and things that he did do almost sound like you're talking about a mythical figure.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people who don't believe some of the things, and I can't say that I believe everything, but I do. I think it's very possible that he did grab somebody up, and he was not a he was not a person who was sitting on the couch drinking beer before the war. He was a very hard, a very physical person as far as his activity level goes and strength and everything. He was a fighter from the beginning, a fighter from the start, and I do consider it possible that he was in good enough shape. Using you got that adrenaline going, in the stirrup, well balanced, you're a good horseman, and you got enough balance. Yeah, if that's a little old bitty Federal, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. It could have been 16, 17, 18-year-old, 90-pound, 100-pound kid.
Yeah, and back
then,
the average person in the 1860s was smaller than they are today. So,
no man kills
how'd you like to be known for the rest of your life as Forrest Shield?
Oh, I know, that would suck.
At least it makes you notable if you didn't ever do anything else in your life.
Well, yeah, that's true. At least you'll have a name on a piece of paper somewhere.
No man kills me and lives. I love that story. You've been shot. The ball's still in you. What I get shot with? 36. Starts getting up, walk away. You still got the ball in you. It's just a puny old 36. It don't weigh nothing.
I still thought it was so incredible when they dig up Jesse James and he had that 36 caliber bullet in his casket. That was crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of things about that because we're in Jesse James country, and for years and years I knew about the bullet hole in the wall. So I went to see the bullet hole in the wall quite a few times. Got my picture taken with it.
The 50 BMG freaking Smith & Wesson, basically.
The only trouble is the bullet's still in his head.
Well, I'm pretty sure that was his head hitting the plaster.
I think it was. It's where his head smacked the plaster and people just picked away at it. Now it's world famous Kansas and Missouri. I was go see the hole where the bullet went through the wall. No, I'm pretty sure that bullet's still in him.
That was the second spot where the Kool-Aid man broke through the wall.
Yeah, exactly.
Another famous bullet hole in a wall. I wish that I had studied a little bit more about it before we went to the courthouse in Lincoln, New Mexico. That bullet hole that's in the wall at the bottom of the stairs was not even from, it didn't happen when Billy the Kid was making his escape and killed, Deputy Bell right there on the steps. That bullet hole was actually put there long after the fact, and I've read an account. I did know the man's name that did it, and the people that were there with him, and they retold the story that it was another man that did it many years, decades later, a long time later. So I
got to get this story right. Let me shoot the wall real quick.
I'll tell you, one of my favorite bullet holes in the wall is one I didn't even know about until I went to Alvin York's house. Evidently, he kept a single-action army loaded on the desk in his office for his whole life, or is either that or 1911. They said 45 Colts, so I assume. So evidently, his grandkid got in there, and there this mysteriously became a bullet hole, not only through the wall but through the living room door and the porch.
Oh, yeah.
And to fix it, he just got him a furring strip and nailed it over each of them, 2 little furring strips over the front door and over, and it's been that way for almost 100 years.
That's cool.
But he said he locked his pistol in the desk after that.
If you ever get the chance to get to Tombstone and you go into the birdcage, it's got bullet holes all over the place where people fire. It's crazy. You could actually really see how the place was laid out by the bullet holes in the roof. It's crazy. It's actually that bad.
How do you like think of that fella off Judge Roy Bean?
I was always shocked because I never really thought people actually did that, in the West. Like, oh, hey, what's in a I'm gonna shoot at the roof. Apparently they did, because there's a crap ton of bullet holes in that roof and the bar. If you look at the bar, there's all these holes with bullets still in some of them.
Get a bullet hole in the ceiling. Get happy. Shoot a bullet hole in the ceiling.
Hole in the ceiling. Yep.
Matter. Any reason was a reason to shoot.
No kidding.
I can just imagine that everybody would want to just beat the heck out of you for putting a hole in the roof, especially scaring the hell out of everybody.
No, everybody's having a good time.
It's kind of like that first episode of Deadwood when Dan Doherty shoots a hole in the roof. Al's got words. Well, when it starts leaking rain in here, y'all know who to blame.
One of my favorites is Judge Paul Newman, Judge Roy Bean.
Yeah.
Where he's just shooting it when he shoots Lily Langtree. He shoots Lily Langtree. He shot all the holes in the roof. I fine him for drunken disorderly discharge of a firearm. How much he got in his pocket? $8. I fine him $8.
Bucks.
$8 and a life sentence.
$8 and a life sentence.
That's based off an actual thing. There was they brought a corpse into George Roy Bean, and he went through it, and it had a pistol in one pocket and 8 cents in the other. And he says, "I find this body in guilty of illegal possession of a firearm and fining at 8 cents."
He's a great judge. We need judges like that these days, I guess.
I don't know if you want one exactly like that.
I just don't want to be tried by him. It'd be hilarious to watch him. I just don't want to be tried by him.
I can't say some of my favorite lines from that Paul Newman one, but yeah.
Sure you can.
Guess I'm not on 11 Bang Bang.
Yeah, you're not on Bang Bang, so say what you will.
Mill Creek Range said, Snapper, I'll be in Vegas in February for the World of Concrete.
Oh, I didn't even know that was. We have every convention in the world here. Yeah, you got to go get yourself a hunting tag for a desert grizzly.
All right. Lone Dragoon said, hey, Plowboy, have you researched the 1st Louisiana Cavalry Confederate?
I have not.
I wonder if they carried Merrills. Probably not.
Oh, yeah.
That would have been
I could,
Trans-Mississippi. Probably.
Yeah. Well, that's who carried the Brunswicks. A lot of Brunswick.
Carried whatever they get their hands on.
I found it interesting. They're reading about them Brunswick rifles that, according to the British records, they shipped over 2,020 of them. Sent them with the blockade runners around the blockade. And I think they said that 600 of them were captured. So the Confederacy only got 1,420 of them. They set up the Charleston laboratories, made over, I think, 2 million rounds of Brunswick ammunition. And the 26th, like I said, 26th, the 13th, and the 42nd infantry units, all of them guys were armed with Brunswicks. And the British didn't have a whole lot left of them on hand afterwards. So I'm kind of curious how many Brunswicks were actually shipped over. Because 2 million rounds for 1,400 rifles seems like a little bit much.
Maybe. Arizona Ghost Rider's in. He said Kool-Aid Man and Jesse James in the same sentence. Y'all are funny. D had a question, and I don't know. You guys can say what you think about it, then I'll give my thoughts. He said, so what are the pros and cons of 45-70 versus 50-70?
A little bit bigger hole.
Well, maybe.
Bragging rights.
50-70 is actually a lighter bullet for most applications.
I truly couldn't give you a real answer on that because I've never really experienced
I can
either.
tell you what your pros and cons are for today. For getting a gun today to shoot, 45-70 is going to have about 100,000 times more options for your cartridges and reloading supplies. 50-70, you're going to pay about $9 a piece for empty brass. 45-70 is more versatile as far as the projectile goes. Always has been, even in the old ones, 405 to 500 grains. 50-70, you can do a lot of different things, but most guns like a 450 grain bullet. The main differences were 50-70 for some reason, and I don't know what it is. For me, it just shoots better. I like it. Probably because the guns it's chambered in have longer barrels, which you could get a Sharps in 50-70 that has a longer barrel too. But the main thing was the government wanted when they went with 50-70, they were going to do 45-70 before they did 50-70. That was Grant's decision to go with 50-70 because it was a shorter cartridge, and he thought it would cost less because it would require less receiver modification to the gun. What they found out was it was a shorter cartridge, but it actually took up more room width-wise when you're carrying it. And they just found that the 45-70 was a better long-range round in the end. A little bit less of a rainbow trajectory, shall we say. I like 50-70 better just because, I don't know, just because I don't have a reason, I guess. if that makes any sense.
Well, I have no experience with 50-70, so I couldn't comment.
I'm a pretty big fan of this here 54-40.
Oh, in the Merrill?
Yeah, I like shooting at Merrill.
That is a
All right,
cool.
Gray
Cool
Pilgrim's
guy.
in. Let's see if there's guys. Let's run for about another 10 minutes. What do you guys say? And we'll go for
That'll
an hour
work.
and a half.
Sure.
You guys got any more questions thrown out there? Angry Ranger said, "Now I'm confused. I'm on Snapper's channel, and he's not. Any other comments appear, but they're not seen here. That is because they're probably some comments are being posted on Duke's channel, and I can read them, but not everybody else can. Let's see.
Yeah, I can see some of the chat, but it only comes through, I think, on my side.
Yeah,
but
so
I've
basically
not
whatever
really
comments
actively
you're
watching the chat.
seeing is other people watching on that channel with you.
Okay, so the Lone Dragoon says, I have researched them. He's still talking about the cavalry. He said, I'm not sure what they carried. I know they were very well equipped, though. I know Hal Carter, in his memoir titled Cavalryman's Reminiscences, said he doesn't really go into detail on what they carried. Okay. So that's about that. That's the end of that.
Now, on my channel, is it actually streaming the video or is it off?
You're off. He can't see your face.
Oh, yeah. I don't have my stuff on today. I'm not feeling well. I figured it'd be just easier to turn the audio on.
Okay. Uncle Chaw said this is kind of off topic, but have you read Firearms, Traps, and Tools of the Mountain Men by Carl B. Russell? Full of good info. Duke?
What's that?
You guys got to go check the 11 Bang Bang library.
Right there.
Yeah, it's an okay
Duke,
book, but it's not the
Give
greatest.
your thoughts. I like it, but Duke has a deeper.
Basically,
understanding
it's
of it.
because he puts modern stuff in there. It's like, what does the modern British SAS dagger that they've even got on the front cover got to do with a mountain man?
It's right there.
Puts things out of
And they
place.
talk about it in the book. That's World War II. That is not Mountain Man era.
But other
Hey,
than
with
that,
enough
I enjoyed
alcohol, you could make it fit.
Well, if they'd had them, they'd have used them.
Jesus.
Maybe they patterned theirs after a mountain man knife that was found at one point. You never
No,
know.
Ethan, no. Because we all know that every mountain man carried a Green River knife and a Hawken rifle.
Oh,
For
absolutely.
crying out loud. Don't get me started on that either.
Speaking of that SAS knife, kind of funny thing I watched on YouTube was showed this old paratrooper, SAS paratrooper, talking about the reason why they designed the knife the way they were fighting and stuff, and it shows him on one side, and I read a comment that'd been at the very end because he's talking about how to kill a man with it and the best ways of doing it. At the very, like, one of the comments, it said, man, it'd be so good if they just zoomed out and he was in like his third grade class of children. It's grandpa, and they're talking about the knife. Oh my God, I got such a laugh out of it. How good that would have been.
Well, who was that? That was what's his name? He was a British actor. He was in the SAS, and Gary, you remember what his name is?
Oh, Christopher Lee?
Yeah, he had a video like that showing how to kill a man with a knife, and people were like, "Wow, he actually was kind of."
Well, I just didn't think Dracula needed a knife, but
Yeah,
That would have been
Oh, it's
bring
funny
grandpa
when
to school day.
When they was filming Lord of the Rings, there's one scene where Christopher Lee's character Saruman gets stabbed in the back, and the director Peter Jackson was telling him, "You got to scream," and he said, "Well, he asked Peter Jackson. He said, "Have you ever heard somebody stabbed in the back?" And Peter Jackson says, "No," and he says, "Well, I have." And it's not a scream, it's a gasp because all the air is going out of their lungs. It's like, oh, wow.
oh,
You do it
RJ,
your way.
go ahead. Sorry.
I said, I'd say, never mind. You do it your way.
Well, I think about the idea
they
too
cut
is every
the
time you've
scene
ever
out.
been hurt, what's the first thing you do? You actually inhale first before you exhale. If you've ever been hurt real bad, it's usually not a fast scream. It's more of like, oh, exhale, inhale kind of thing.
It didn't matter because they completely cut the scene out of the movie and nobody ever even knew what happened to Christopher Lee. And so at some press conference afterwards, they said, well, you just disappeared. What happened? He said, buy the Blu-ray. But anyway, RJ's Guns and Stuff said, tried any 3D printed stuff for reloading? Anybody?
No.
Other than I've got Dustin Weininger's paper cartridge reload, which I actually haven't used because I can't make paper cartridges to save my life.
Me neither.
These fingers, I can do fine detail work doing leather. I cannot roll a paper cartridge and get it because when I take it off, it just goes.
I'm not going to name any names, but one of us here on this channel may have made it into a Hickok 45 video for his proficiency with paper cartridges.
This is true. I've heard this as well.
Three
videos, yeah.
You made it into 3 videos?
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive.
It didn't help me none.
I'm still trying to figure out how in the heck you roll a 31 caliber cartridge. I can't get it to happen to save my life.
Well, you get your 3-year-old to do it.
Yeah.
Kids, we're going to learn arts and crafts today in school.
How to roll a cigarette paper.
There's your paper. There's your glue. There's the bullet.
So before we go here, I want to get through some of these questions. There's a couple more. Task Force Tyler had one for Snapper. He says, Snapper, if I recall correctly, didn't you knock over Caldwell Colt's personal belongings?
This always gets brought up.
It's amazing.
I could say it, or I could either prove or disprove that happened.
Where's Squibbler at?
Yep. Stephen M. Mann said no, not the Hawkins again.
Boy.
Oh yeah. By Landon C said the infamous Sykes knife of the 1830s carried by every French trapper. I thought those were everywhere. Oh, so anyway, guys, that's about all we got here. I think we're going to get on out of here because what do you need to do? A cartridge filler?
I want some cornbread.
Well, I thought you were going to vote Duke off the island again.
No, I thought about that. I was trying to, it was either that or it was going to be like an eat more chicken thing, but I just.
Or
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I forgot about that voting off the island, but I was just thinking, it's been about a year since Plowboy and I've been on a chat, I think.
Has it? It may be. I don't do a lot of these anymore. I can't come up with enough entertaining stuff to keep everybody going.
Ah,
We can't either. We just talk over each other a bunch, and that's entertaining.
I'm used to listening.
I always find the beginning of the chat's the hardest. That's always the hardest part for me. Once it gets going, it's easy.
yeah.
Well, it's a lot easier when I got like Plowboy on here because we all kind of know each other a little bit. Sometimes when it's a new person, it's a little bit difficult, but yeah, I've always enjoyed having Plowboy come on. I think we've done a couple of them now, but
Yeah, for you guys who've never done this, it is actually more difficult than you would think to keep a conversation going especially at the beginning and you don't know the people that well, and trying to keep every second filled with entertainment.
Oh, I'm
It's
sure.
more difficult than you think.
And that's why we have Snapper.
One of the reasons I'm not doing them on my own is because I don't know. I've kind of come up with an idea one time that if I did my own live chat, I was going to do something just right out of the gate that nobody expected, going to go like Hollywood Squares with monologues and everything, and just see how it worked out. I think it would probably be a one and done. We'd never do another live stream.
well, you'd probably be better off than what we did tonight on our channel. That's for sure. I still can't believe it. That's over 100 live chats over 3 years. All of them have basically the same video in the intro, and I always use. It got me.
I'm surprised that we didn't get hit for it either. It's got to be somebody turn that in.
Yeah. We got some people that don't like us very much. Perfectly fine.
Making enemies, huh?
One of these days, I'm going to do like one of them Grantham intros, but I'm going to do hey, are you one of them people that believes we should be tearing down Confederate monuments and doing all that sort of thing? If you're that kind of person, there's a little button down there. If you're already subscribed, you can hit the unsubscribe button. Go ahead and hit that unsubscribe button. I'm going to do that one of these days. See how many people we lose.
Or do like Jake does, and if you don't like this, go make your own video.
Yeah.
Gray Pilgrim said, before we get off of here, Ethan on Squibload's latest, he shows Smith & Wesson #1 Series 1. Isn't that what you have? Do you have a Series 1?
No, second issue. Yep.
So
the first issues are a little bit hard to come by. They're a little pricey.
Evidently, Squib's got one.
I didn't know Squib had one of those.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I'm not going to read that one. A couple of them have got me a few times. We're not going to go there. Oh, I haven't had to use moderators for a while. Probably going to have to start up again. Somebody to stop me from my mouth outrunning my brain because I about did another one right there.
I just seen the one too.
Oh, all right. Well, Plowboy, what you got coming out? You got any plans?
I'm making this up as I go. I really have no idea what I'm doing from one day to the next.
you got the range set up on the new property and everything, it looked like.
Well, I've got a couple of steel pasture posts stuck in the ground and go down there and hang a plate on every now and then. That's about it.
You just have to replace those when you shoot them off from the ground with only about 2 inches sticking out.
Well, if I miss pretty bad, that'll probably happen.
I ain't going to say for sure, but I'm pretty sure Ethan shot a few off in his time.
Probably run over with a bush hog.
Oh, what? Depots?
drive them down deep about a foot below ground, call it good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I cut one in half one time with a Lee-Enfield on accident. It's like I'm hearing the clang, but I'm not seeing the plate moving. Oh, that's why.
Fell down. So anyway, gonna go ahead and remove him right quick. But anyway, all right, Duke, you got anything? Oh yeah. Oh, I can't talk about the collaboration yet. I don't think that Duke and I've been working on.
Oh, that one? Well, it's going to come out, what? You'll probably have it done Sunday?
Well, I hope to have it done by then. It'll come out on your channel if I do. We have something coming up with the two of us. Depends on how detailed we want to make it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And then, we'll have some video coming up here at the end of September.
Yeah. We have
Wait.
that, and if I would get time, I'd make some more shorts for Duke's channel, but I just haven't had time here lately.
And when you guys come up in September, bring me a dummy 5070 and I'll pay you for it.
Oh, okay.
Do we need to bring you a metal carbine?
We're only taking one gun. We don't have a lot of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
He'll be back down here before long.
I'm hoping that I can get down there this fall, but we'll see.
Snapper, you got anything coming up?
Man, other than being sick, that's the only thing coming out of me lately.
I guess tune in Sunday. I haven't decided exactly what we're going to do on 11 Bang Bang. Might be a double barrel flintlock pistol video, hopefully.
That would be fun.
It came out pretty good. I can tell you this right now. If you're expecting me to make a 350-yard shot with that thing, you're just out of luck. I can't
Until
make
it
a 5-yard.
happens.
We're going to watch
happen.
Garrett run 350, or no, we'll watch Garrett run 340 yards up and then shoot at 10.
Yeah.
That definitely ain't happening, and especially nowadays. I can't run 350 feet.
Well, all you got to do, man, is sit there and just reload and shoot at it until it hits, and then you just use that as your first shot.
You just got to have you got to have Ethan behind the camera with a gong in one hand and a hammer in the other, and just
ding, I got it.
You'd be surprised at how many people think we actually do that.
I was going to comment that on that short that day, and I thought, no, I'm not going to do that.
We get it a lot, but you can't. I ain't gonna waste a lot of time proving it to everybody because I probably couldn't do it again if I tried. So,
You're only as good as your last performance. So if you quit while you're ahead, you'll always be the world's greatest.
that means
What was your point of aim on that?
About 3 foot over his head, and I hit him right in at the bottom of the torso.
I wonder if you could do it again. I don't know, man.
I guarantee you it would have to be with that pistol and that load. I could not do it.
If you want to see Garrett do it again, just go back and watch the video.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Watch the video.
Hit rewind.
The thing about that is I rarely miss with that pistol at 100. So I do have some skill with it, but 350 yards, that's luck. I'm just saying that's luck. I ain't going to do it again. So anyway, I guess that's all we got, guys. Anybody got anything else to say?
I can't think of nothing. Appreciate y'all having me on.
We appreciate you coming on. You brought a lot of people. Hopefully, guys, tune in next week to this same time to Tales of the Trails, and hopefully 2 weeks from now we'll still be allowed to stream on 11 Bang Bang. We'll try to do something else.
And hopefully we'll have a new intro song for Tales of the Trail.
Yeah, one that won't get us in any trouble. So, anyway, all right, everybody. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.